Make sure to be a member on the channel, link is in the description. Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. I'm going to check it out. Some aircraft that can be added to War Thunder very soon, and some aircraft that I actually needed in top tier or near the top tier, or even some lower BRs like 9.3 or something like that, that can be added before we get into the fourth gen stuff, large fourth gen stuff and 80 stuff. And we're going to talk about all the countries. Some of the countries get more stuff than others, and some even don't get anything, just new missiles and stuff. So we're going to strictly talk about older aircrafts. Remember the generation thing, it doesn't exist exactly, so there are some aircraft here that are considered fourth gen, and there are some that are not considered even third. But yeah, I'm going to talk everything that, in my opinion, needs to be added to War Thunder to be a more complete game, in aircraft wise. Um, I'm going to make this video maybe a two-part video depending on how long it takes to record it. But I'm going to, even if it's a two-part video, I'm going to make another one probably after the patch with 4th gen aircraft that should be added soon enough as well. So yeah, keep an eye out, make sure to subscribe, and let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about the countries coming from the left to the right on the normal tech tree that we have in War Thunder. So yeah, first country that we have, it's the USA. United States is one of the countries that have the most aircraft, but of course is one of the countries that will receive more aircraft in general because they produced more aircraft than other countries, together with the Soviet Union. So yeah, together with the Soviet Union they will receive more aircraft, so let's get into it. First thing that we are going to talk about is a version of the F-86. I'm going to leave pictures and stuff on the background so you can see. But the first one are actually two variants of the F-86. We never got an F-86 that had the AIM-9s on it. So that would be the first variant that I wanted to put in USA. After the F2, of course, the F-86H, which is the latest variant of the F-86 made by the US and used by the US. It has the cannons of the F2 basically, but they are not a prototype variant anymore. 20mm, 4 of them, pretty good. AIM-9s, and it doesn't have an afterburner if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, basically this is the main thing. Also, it has LABS, which is the low altitude bombing system, which basically means that it has the CCRP mode on War Thunder. The BR should be like 9.3 after the F2, so yeah, this should be a normal aircraft that we should have already gotten. Another version of the F-86 that I think it should be added. A lot of people ask for F-86K for the US, but I don't think the K variant actually was used by US. So we can get a premium or event vehicle for the F-86D, which is the dog variant. But why is it a premium, I would say? It's because it doesn't have cannons, okay? It only has proximity fuse rockets, like the F-89, that version of the F-89. And there are some reports of using the AIM-9B and others not, so I don't know exactly around the AIM-9s. But if you would use the AIM-9s, it would be a viable aircraft, in my opinion, at around 9.0 maybe, or maybe even, yeah, maybe like that, because it's going to have the radar, it's going to have the afterburner, but it doesn't have a cannon. And at that BR with those missiles and rockets, it's not the most effective thing ever, but it's still a pretty fun aircraft that should be added. More advanced stuff. Let's get into the 60s now. I think, as I always defend, I'm a defendant of normal. In the normal videos, I normally defend the addition of anti-radiation missiles. Very early ones, of course, like the AGM-45 and the KH-25MP, which they have the normal range of already known missiles like the Maverick and like the KH-25. So yeah, and the first aircraft that actually used this in the US service was the F-100F wide whistle variant. That had some type of special RWR and stuff to detect radar emissions and stuff like that, and together use the AGM-45 to actually kill those. It loses two cannons because the F variant didn't have the 4 M39s, it actually had two. But still a pretty interesting aircraft. Should be able to carry AIM-9s and already other stuff, but it's just one other variant of the F-100. It is biplane, so it's two pilots, so it's pretty cool. It's different, you know. It's a little bit more heavyweight for the second guy, and for the avionics, but it loses two cannons, so kind of evens that out, you know. And it has the AGM-45 for the BR would be like a 9.7 still, you know, for early gen radar guided AA systems to be destroyed by it. With the Shrike having a very low range, so and not turning very well, you can also basically turn off your radar and the missile will probably miss. So yeah, another versions of Vietnam era aircraft would be the F-105G or the F-105F, but probably the F-105G would be a best variant. They are both, I think they are biplaced, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They also use the Shrike missile. And yeah, basically the F-105G would be basically the same aircraft that we have, but with a better RWR system to locate the AA systems and being able to carry more stuff. The EF-105F, I don't think it could carry more stuff, just the Shrikes and stuff like that, but the F-105G would be able to carry stuff like that. Of course, it would come after the F-105D that we have, complementing the bomber line down there, and just basically being a new F-105 so that we can have more stuff. Of course, this is one of the first aircraft that had ECM, but I don't think we should have ECM right now, you know, but if Carding wants to add it, I mean, sure, why not? And the last wild weasel aircraft that I'm going to talk about, it's the F4G. So this would probably come together with the F4E inside those little packages that comes in the tree, you know, like a folded inside one another, or below the F-105G, whatever is better. It is an Air Force aircraft. It is basically based on the F4E, but it doesn't have a internal cannon. The place that they put it, the avionics was on the cannon was. So basically they removed the cannon to put more avionics and more stuff for the ECM role and the seed role. So yeah, it has the ability to carry the AGM-45, the AGM-78 and the HARM, the AGM-88, but those are pretty advanced. I don't think we should receive them now, but still a pretty interesting aircraft to have. It would still have the APQ-120, so the same radar as in the F4E, and because of that, and because of the missiles that would carry, it would be 11.0. It's basically an F4E, but instead of being able to have the internal cannon, it won't have a cannon, and it would have the Shrike missiles and other stuff like that. Better RWR, and maybe even ECM if, as I said, our Gaijin actually wanted to add that. So this would be the three aircraft that we should receive for seed right now. I mean, there are other aircrafts and other variants of aircraft that I'm going to talk about, but for early stuff, this would be, I think, ideal for now, just to put your toes in the water, you know, kind of thing. So yeah, another thing that we are already talking 10 minutes only by the US, but we're going to try to get to the USSR in this video, and the next video we're going to talk about the other nations. But yeah, let's get into more aircraft. So yeah, another aircraft that should be added, it's the F-106, an interceptor made in the basically late 50s, you know, back in their era. It would be comparable to the F-104, so around the same BR, so 10.0, maybe 9.7 actually, because of the speed and stuff, because I think it's a little bit lower than F-104, but still very comparable to it. Of course, we would need the version that received the M61 Vulcan, because initially the F-106 didn't have the Vulcan. And the missiles would be the ability to carry, I think it's 4 AIM-4s, Falcons. So they're pretty not that great missiles, you know. There are some people that say that this missile is worse than the AIM-9B, but there are also some pilots that confirm that this missile is better than the AIM-9B. So this would be the AIM-4F and G, the F being a semi-active variant and radar variant, you know, and the G would be an IR rear aspect missile. It should turn basically similar to the AIM-9B, not much better, not much worse, similar to that. It is a very interesting aircraft actually, high speeds, high altitude, and remember it's a very modern aircraft for the time actually, because it was one of the first aircraft in the world that actually had a data link. So yeah, it's a very, very capable aircraft, and it was replaced very quickly by other more advanced ones, but it was in service until the 70s, I think. So yeah, pretty interesting one, and another addition to the interceptor line of the F-104. Another aircraft that I think we should receive, that it's kind of old as well, of course, the F-111. So yeah, it's the Aardvark, or the aircraft that should have been the F-14 kind of, and they exchanged it for the F-14 for the fighter role, and ended up being just an Air Force aircraft in the end of its life. So it has many variants, A until like F. But I think there is 3 variants that we should receive. Of course, the A variant being the early one. Doesn't have much of anything. Early AIM-9s, you know, has the early TF-30, so it's kind of underpowered. It is swing wing, and it is kind of a bomber, but still can be used as a fighter. Has basically the same engine as the F-14, but very kind of underpowered compared to a little bit to the F-14, but it's basically the same power, like at 10 kilonewton less, I think it changed, or something like that. So yeah, but yeah, the early I mean, I would say 3 variants coming probably after the F-105G that I told you about, or the F-105D, so in the bomber line. So yeah, the F-111A, the E, and the F. The A being early dumb bombs, and AIM-9s, very early TF-30s, and it has, you know, the aircraft itself has a bomb bay, and together with more 4 external pylons for various types of bombs and stuff, and rockets and stuff. So it would be just a multi-role kind of thing, but specifically as a bomber. You know, it doesn't have many missiles and stuff like that. There is the B variant that they try to use, but I don't know if it was actually used. I'm just saying about normal aircraft that were produced, more sort of, you know. We should receive the E variant as well, a more advanced radar, more advanced everything. It has MTI radar, better weaponry in general, better AIM-9s, early 70s still, so probably use the AIM-9G and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit more bombs and stuff like that, better engine. And the last variant, the F-111F, being able to carry on its own a FLIR pod which can be used to designate targets with the laser designator and drop laser guided bombs, being able to carry out its own laser designator. So yeah, would be the most advanced version. Maybe the A variant is too early, maybe the E variant and then the F, but these 3 variants I found it the most interesting. Of course, we have the EA F-111, but I think this would be too advanced for now, but it is an aircraft that in the line of seed weaponry you can receive it as well. So this would be my additions for the Air Force. And for the Navy, I think there is one aircraft that should be received fairly soon. It's the AV-8B, which is a marine aircraft, basically a more advanced variant of the Harrier that we already have. Should receive a radar, but basically as far as I know, the night attack version should receive a radar and a nav FLIR, which is a navigation forward-looking infrared camera. So there are some sensors there that can be introduced to War Thunder, and just in general, it's a better aircraft, better engines, better missiles. Of course, it's going to be able to carry AIM-9Ls and stuff like that. So it should be able to be 10.7, 11.0. and a lot of flares and stuff like that, or even the AV8B Plus, which has the APG-65 radar, which I think it's the F-18 radar, which is a pulse operator, pretty modern radar, and can be able to use the M120, the MRAM. In the far future, it would be maybe a thing that can be added to the AV8. So maybe we should receive the normal variant now, and once we get missiles like that, we can receive the plus variant with this type of radar and AIM-120s. So this would be for the US, so F-106, 86H, 86D, F-100F, F-105G, F-4G, AV-8s, and the F-111s. This would be my additions, in my opinion, for the US. For Germany, we shall receive just a couple of MiGs and stuff like that. So one of them we probably will get it in this in this patch, which is the MiG-17PF, or even the F variant, but BF, which is basically a MiG-17 with the VK1F engine, afterburner engine, with the RP-1 radar, capacity to carry the R3S missile, and the RS-2U beam riding missile, and maybe even the R-55 if added to the Soviet Union, which is a comparable missile to like a M9E or D for the time. Being a 9.3, for example, or something like that. Another aircraft that should be added for Germany, MiG-23BN, of course, early variant of the MiG-27. It still has the 23mm gun. It doesn't have the radar, and it has just a laser rangefinder on the nose, so no laser designator, which means no laser guided weapons. So we would be able to carry the R3S, the R13M, maybe even the R60, and basically dumb bombs and dumb rockets, which would make it very low BR, 10.0, 10.3, something like that. The Sukhoi 22 M4, which is basically as the Su 17 M4, as the Soviet Union will get it in this patch. So yeah, 11.0, R60Ms, KH-29Ts, and all that thing. I think the Germans should receive a very good top tier attacker, and the attacker that we can get for now, it's the Sukhoi 22 M4. Another aircraft that should be added to Germany, that is a bridge between the MiG-19S and the MiG-21MF, would be the MiG-21 PF. So not the PFM, the PF would be like a 9.3, like the PFM. It has weaker engines and the ability to carry just the R3Ss and the RS-2U, which is a beam riding missile that I talked about it earlier, but we probably don't have it yet in game anyway, so we are probably not going to receive it. But it would be like a PFM with a weaker engine, to be a bridge between the 19 and the MF, which I think it's a very big bridge, and it's just a way to have a more advanced aircraft, even though the BR is lower than the MiG-19. And another thing that I think that should be added is the AIM-9L for the F4F, with the removal of the AIM-9G-E and just being going from the AIM-9B to the AIM-9F, which is the FGW something there, which is the AIM-9F, and the AIM-9L. I think the F4F should receive for now that. Before we get any things like Tornado and stuff like that, I'm going to talk about that in the 4th gen video, okay? And before we go to the USSR, because it's going to take a while, also because it's one of the bigger nations, we're going to leave it to tomorrow's video. So because this video is already too long, so we're going to talk about very quickly about the 2 next countries, and then we go back tomorrow for the USSR. So the UK, we already have the F4M and the F4K, which is basically the best that we can get for now. But there is a thing that they did for the Skyflash. Apparently, I don't know if it's actually confirmed by this. It's really difficult to find information about it. But the Skyflash received a new motor in the late 80s that made the Skyflash a little bit better, and this would make the Skyflash similar to the AIM-7F in energy wise. So this could be a modification to the Skyflash that we can receive, and this would be very good to have. And of course, in the future we can receive the AIM-9L as well, with the Kai receiving the AIM-7F in the next patch. I think it's okay to talk about the UK receiving the AIM-9L on the FRM and the F4K, which is the FGR2 and the FG1. Of course, but we have a third F4 that we can receive. I don't know if there is a reason to it, because it is the F4F3, also called the F4J. So basically it is an F4J bought by the UK from the US to complement its squadrons in the Navy, I think it was in the Navy, because of the Falkland War. So I think there's no much reason to it, because it would be basically the same as the F4M, but with weaker engines, you know, and but it's basically the same radar, and it would carry the Sky Flash and maybe even the M9L later, but it just doesn't make it much sense to have that. But you can have it under the Lightning being 11.0 as well. But yeah, also a new aircraft, would be new aircraft, are the Harriers. So the Sea Harrier FRS-1 used in the Falklands War, and the FA-2. First of all, the first variant was basically a naval variant of the Harrier, with better missiles, better performance in general, better engines, better everything, and it has a Blue Fox radar, which is, I think it was already pulse Doppler, so it is a very modern radar with the M9Ls, and yeah, it would be a very good Harrier to have. I put it, the BR would be like 10.7, maybe 11.0. Of course, these Harriers don't have the turning performance of normal top tier aircraft, but with these missiles and stuff like that and a lot of flares, it could be a pain to kill one of these. So that's why the high BR. And yeah, the FA-2 would be the same thing as in the AV-8B. It would basically be a variant with a better radar and being able to carry the AIM-120. As I said before, I don't think the AIM-120 is going to be added, and I don't like the idea of them being added right now. But in the future, when we get things like MiG-29s and stuff like that, and more advanced weaponry, and maybe even Fox 3 of all 4th gen that will be released, maybe we can see that, so that it can be competitive. So yeah, this would be for UK, not a lot of things. Before the Tornado, of course, we're going to talk about the Tornado later. And yeah, let's talk about a little bit one more country, Japan, of course, with better missiles like the M9L and the AAM-3 sorry, in the future for the Kai. Of course, together with the AIM-7F, would make the Kai one of the best aircraft in the game, especially receiving TWS right now. That we'll probably receive, I don't know, it's not confirmed. So yeah, and more weapons like the anti-ship missiles, for example, for the F1 and the Kai, would be good to help get more points and stuff like that. Not the most useful thing ever, I know, but yeah, because Japan doesn't have much until we get the F-15, so the Kai would be the main aircraft that we receive, and it will probably just receive new missiles and more stuff like that. Okay, so together with the AIM-7F, the AIM-9L, or the AAM-3, I don't know which of, I mean, if the Kai even used the AIM-9L, so this would be the other variant. And yeah, let's talk about Israel as well, because we are already here, and it's just very quickly to talk about. This would be the same thing for Israel. There's not much more that we can add to Israel. Just the AIM-7s for the F4E, and maybe the Python 3s for the Kafir C7, and maybe the F4E as well. So yeah, I think this would be alright to receive, and it would make, until they receive the F-16 that they have, or the F-15, it would make them pretty competitive, I think. Yeah, so basically this is it, my opinion in some of the countries. And we already talked about it, the USA, Germany, the UK, Japan, and Israel. We're going to talk about Sweden, France, Italy, China, and of course the USSR in the next video tomorrow, okay? So make sure to subscribe, and let me know in the comments if I missed any of the aircraft that you want to see in War Thunder, and let me know in the comments as well if you agree with me with the aircraft that I already put it. I think it's very reasonable, and remember, this is a list for aircraft before we get to the 4th gen stuff, okay? I'm going to make these videos just to show that there are a lot of aircraft that should be added, even though the 4th gen are coming. There are a lot of older aircraft that we can see in the future that are pretty cool, pretty fun. I personally would enjoy to see the Sea Harrier and the anti-radiation aircraft as well. But there's a lot of aircraft cool, like the Germans with a lot of their MiGs and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be amazing. So I see you guys on the next video. Tomorrow we're going to talk about, if I post this tomorrow, because I don't know if the patch is going to be released on Friday, but still, if the patch is going to be released next week, you will see this video on Saturday, and on Sunday you will see the continuation of this video, because if not, the video will have 1 hour. So yeah, I see you guys tomorrow, and bye.